Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan, and thank you for joining us for our Friday update for January the 27th, the long weekend for Auckland and the Upper North Island, and also the Nelson region as well. So let's have a look and see what is happening. Today's animated wind map shows you where the biggest wind energy is. So in these bright shaded areas, that's where it is windiest. So you can see that squash zone on the back of this big high coming down here in this low pressure system, which is decent enough to be noticeable, is adding the squeeze into that system. So that's the reason why we've seen a few power cuts around Auckland and some other parts of the North Island. Now that windy weather peaks today, Friday, and then it starts to ease back a little bit over the weekend. It won't be as bad, but it returns again next week. As you're going to see, this setup is pretty much what we've got for the next 4 or 5 days, if not longer, ahead. And you've also got this area here of low pressure drifting down the North Island a wee bit tonight, and then during the weekend, the high out here should start to push back, and so it all sort of reverses again. So that's why we're seeing this repetitive weather carry on. Across Australia, not so much in the way of dramatic wind at the moment, although the airflow, very hot today in Adelaide, 36 degrees at least if you're there today, and it'll drop 10 degrees by tomorrow. And the South Island has already dropped 10 degrees today, at least down in Southland, compared to where you were yesterday. On the other map that we've got showing thunderstorms, for some reason it speeds up a little bit more than maybe, you know, it looks a little bit more dramatic than it is, but we've got this area of low pressure. This itself is not a storm, but the stormy weather is over here between the low and the high, the squash zone, which is right in here. So there are a few thunderstorms when we were recording this morning, Friday morning, up around Northland, and a couple of thunderstorms down here in Fiordland as that cooler change moves through. And over in Australia, plenty of inland thunderstorms and downpours coming up. So let's take a look at the rainfall maps. We start with New Zealand. 24-hour rainfall map from Friday morning, taking you through to Saturday morning. So it shows you the bulk of the rain down here around Auckland, Coromandel Peninsula, Western Bay of Plenty, and also Taranaki. The cold front down here delivering 5 to 10 millimetres for the most part around Southland and some parts of Canterbury where it is very much needed, and that North Island rain just brushing the Marlborough Sounds, Farewell Spit, those sort of areas, and a little bit of rain also coming into Manawatu, about 30 or 40 millimetres, which I'm sure will be welcome there as it is very dry. Now here is the next 24 hours from Saturday morning through till Sunday morning, and that rain slides down into Bay of Plenty now and East Cape. Not so much on the eastern side, which is good news because I know you're saturated, you don't want any more rain, and it eases up here. The far north, potentially Cape Younga, could be dry on that 24-hour period. So that shows you that low kind of moving in, and that's about where it stops. It goes backwards again after that as the high expands. Here is the current rain radar. As you can see, patchy sort of stuff across the North Island with heavy falls as we were recording this on Friday morning, and there is that cold front coming in at the other end. So New Zealand being sort of sandwiched, if you like, by rain-making systems. So let's take a look at the forecast, and here we are on Saturday. In comes the low itself. It's not very deep, but it's sizable enough to be noticeable and definitely is adding more energy to this system. So the wind and the rain moves further along into Bay of Plenty, into East Cape, and a little bit down maybe into parts of Hawke's Bay. The South Island settled under high pressure for the most part, maybe a little bit of a breeze, but it won't be as wet or as cloudy as it's been. On Sunday, we'll see that rain band break apart even more. The low itself, as you can see, has kind of fallen apart. So it won't be as windy on Sunday. Still a bit of a breeze here, a bit of a northerly coming through, and most of the wet weather around Bay of Plenty and East Cape, and then it'll go back into Coromandel for a time, mainly on the eastern side, which is a bit unfortunate. But the rainfall totals, if you take a look at Weather Watch and Rural Weather, have a look at the rainfall graphs. The totals actually aren't as big as you might think. For some areas it may still be, so keep an eye on those warnings with Met Service. And also here on Sunday, more downpours and thunderstorms for inland parts of Australia, but it is a little bit cooler now down here in some of these coastal areas. So for Monday, Auckland anniversary for the top half of the North Island, and also Nelson anniversary. Nelson's the place to be, settled there. But as this high expands, it sort of pushes those rain clouds back up the northern side of the country, which is a little bit backwards on what we normally would have. And the nor'easters are still around. They're still blowing through, hopefully still not too annoying for most of you, but they will be picking up again as we go through into Monday, because on Tuesday, this system's kind of got reorganised again, and back comes the rain. And it's an almost identical setup, although the low has weakened a little bit more. So more wind and rain on Tuesday. We've actually already alerted some of the power organisations in Auckland to say, hey, there could be more wind and getting back up to that power outage level where branches can break onto power lines. And then in Australia, a bit of low pressure inland on both sides, producing plenty of inland downpours and thunderstorms as we go through next week. And by Wednesday, you can see all the sort of the fringes. They've got all the rain and the downpours and the isolated thunderstorms in New Zealand. This system finally starting to fall apart. That's still not until next Wednesday, Thursday. So here at lunchtime Thursday, the high is still where it is. In fact, it's got bigger. The low has completely gone now, and now you've got all the leftovers. The rain still sliding down across the country, but the wind flow starting to change a little bit more to a nor'wester, and eventually that will all move through. Not too stormy in the tropics either in the middle of next week. Got a low pressure zone near the Cook Islands, downpours around Fiji, but nothing else really going on that's too newsworthy. And that is all from me. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. We're away on Monday, but we'll see you again on Tuesday.